fakes the one-timer. Now a shot, score, a goal, and Massachusetts takes the lead.
It's time to talk some UMass hockey here on the NewMass Minute, the first of 2025. Coming at you from the Mullen Center. My name's Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside my broadcast cohort, UMass alum, all-around hockey denizen. His name is Nathan Strauss, and he's coming to us from somewhere in the Midwest. Nate, Happy New Year to you. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It is a little chilly here in the second city. I kind of need one of those vests that you have.
I'm puffed
Also,
up today, man. It's chilly
also,
out here.
it has to be the first time anyone has ever said denizen of anything and Nathan Strauss in the same sentence. So,
Well,
really
you
starting
you
off the new
live
year with a bang.
you live and lurk in these circles, and we're happy you do because you got so much information and you were out there. We're going to talk. You went from the desert in Arizona. UMass was out for 2 games of the Desert Hockey Classic, which we're going to talk about. But I think what kind of took a lot of the headlines was the World Junior Tournament that took place in Canada this year. So I want to go back and kind of recount that. UMass had 2 players playing in that, but a bigger picture here in the World Juniors, at least I thought, maybe because I was paying a little more attention this season, it felt like the conversation was more robust this year around the tournament.
Yeah, I think, it helped that this year, Canada was the host and they got bounced for the second time in the quarters in the last 2 years. And you know, thanks to Michael Robel, no less. But I do think that so much of the hockey world's news begins and ends in Toronto a
Yeah.
lot of the time. And I don't think that hurt certainly the online space just because, it's Canada's game and the legacy media is very focused on Team Canada there. But I do think you're right. Like this team in particular for the United States has a lot of real characters on it. It was an incredibly Hockey East specific team as well, which is pretty cool to see, regardless of whether or not, UMass didn't have players on the US, but had, 3 players in the tournament, including a commit. So, I think Eric Galanti had a great stat where it was all but one goal in the tournament for the team USA was assisted or scored by a BU or BC player.
Wow.
So a lot of the players who we see on a day-to-day basis who are competing with UMass were putting up numbers. And of course, Jenschko and Frabel and Christian Kirsch, the UMass commit from Switzerland, all were amongst the best players, if not the best players on their team.
Robel wins bronze for the second consecutive year, and it's the first time a UMass player has won multiple medals in the tournament. They do so by beating Sweden 3-2 in a 14 round shootout. He stopped 12 of the 14 shots. He had nearly a 920 save percentage in the tournament. I mean, there were some highlight reel saves that he made. What did you take away from his performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was so the only other goalie who I think could have beat him out for the best goalie in the tournament was the Latvian goalie who made the 50 something saves in the game over Canada. But he was outstanding. The goals that he gave up, there was maybe one goal the entire tournament that he might have wanted back. He played really well against the United States. He made a couple of saves to keep Czechia in it against Canada. Like Canada, for all their scoring woes, they still are Canada, and Rabel
Yeah.
played really, really well. And if we can like excuse the ludicrous nature of like having a shootout in a medal game, I know that that's an Olympic thing too, because obviously Team USA had, the TJ Oshie thing back in 2010. And but like there should be 5-on-5 continuous overtime in tournaments. Like that's or 3-on-3 continuous
Yeah.
overtime, whatever. Anyways, but he was great in the shootout. I mean, 12 you make 12 saves, and also after the fifth shooter you can repeat, so like half the attempts that he saved were
Remember
the same person.
the top guys.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was great for him. And and Greg Carvel mentioned to us on the media availability this week, like he's still only 19. He was one of the 10 youngest players in college hockey last year, and that's how you get to be a two-time medalist. So it's great for him. Czechia has a reputation for goalies and also, really playmaking centers.
Who are the
It's
top
great for him.
goalies in Czechia history?
In Czechia history, well, on the soccer side, Peter Cech. But no, I would say what Peter Mrazek, Dom Hasek. I mean Dom Hasek.
That's a
I'm
big
not
one. Yeah.
can't put Peter Mrazek over Dom Hasek, unfortunately.
You start with Hasek,
But
number
yeah,
one.
I would say Dom Hasek's got to be number one. I'm sure there are some others that I could think of.
You didn't think I'd put you on the spot, did you?
No, but I know, but Dom Hasek's definitely number one. Karel Vejmelka of Utah right now is having a really good season. they are kind of like goalie you though, if you will. So,
Okay. And
well, anyways, I'll think of some more.
Daniel
I'm sure
Daniel
Hall of Famers who I'm
Yechko
forgetting.
for Slovakia, I think it's good to see him. Remember, he missed time earlier this year, and UMass kind of went through a little bit of a lull. What was the chatter on his performance?
Yeah, he played well, and again, he played well for a team that was an underdog going into this tournament. They had just been promoted a few years ago. When he played for them, the U18s in 2022, it was in the Division 1A challenge, which is like the second division below, at a younger youth level. So it was great to see how well they played. He had 2 goals, 2 assists. One of them was a tip in front. He was playing on a line with Dalibor Dvorsky, who is probably their brightest talent, and one of the real standout players for them. And also, I think he's now an AHL All-Star at the age of 19. So the fact that he was getting basically top line minutes, top 6 minutes for this team was really encouraging. But more encouraging is just you take a lot away, I think, from these tournaments when you're a forward, right? Like it's a slightly different game in the IIHF. And you mentioned it, he was out a little bit earlier this year. When he is in the lineup for UMass is 6-3. When he's out of the lineup for UMass is 3-5-2. So it's not correlation, it's not causation, but it certainly means that when he's in the lineup, UMass can be a lot more balanced, which is big. And he came back and played on Saturday. Shout out to Hunter Deal, by the way, for and Josh Penn, who picked Daniel Yenchko up at the airport at 11:30 on Friday night because he plays in the game on Thursday, packs his stuff, flies out the day of, gets into Arizona Friday night, like late Friday night, and then plays Saturday. It's quite the turnaround.
Yeah, I know you guys are asking Coach Carve in the media, hey, will these guys, if they get eliminated, come and play? And he's like, look, it's a lot of travel, it's a lot of wear and tear. We're gonna make it their choice. And so clearly that choice was, yeah, I wanna come back and play. So that was fun to watch, kind of in a lull space for hockey at a time that kind of filled up the timeline, which was fun. So congratulations to Robel and Yenchko. We're going to talk with them for the upcoming TV show next week. So we'll check in and see what that experience was like for both those guys. Meanwhile, while Robel is winning the bronze medal, Jackson Irving takes over between the pipes for Massachusetts at the Desert Hockey Classic. Now, you go out, you play two games, a very tough Cornell team, a loss there, and then come back and beat Robert Morris the next day. Before we talk about those games, this is the second time UMass has been out west this year. First time, the setting was meh. There was some food poisoning. There was some lowly lit, poorly broadcast games. What was the vibe this time at Mullet Arena?
Well, Jay, I'm a big vibes guy,
You sure are.
and I asked Coach Carvel
What are the
verbatim.
vibes?
I said, Coach, what are the
I'm
vibes?
surprised he doesn't just absolutely just mute you when you ask a question like that.
Well, a lot of the questions are, I think he enjoys it because
Yeah.
remember, he was in Ottawa for a long time. When you're in the NHL and you've got to deal with like a certain cohort of reporters, I hope I'm a breath of fresh air. But speaking of fresh air, Tempe, Arizona in the first week of January, beautiful.
Not great. Not bad, huh?
Absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful place. It's a 15-minute walk from the hotel to the arena. It was an NHL arena of sorts.
Because
Sort
this
of,
is the arena that they had kind of beefed
yeah.
up
It's the
for the
yeah, it's, I mean
Coyotes.
it's
Yeah.
so it's only 5,000 seats,
Right.
but it does have a certain air of like it's a really nice AHL sized arena. And so the ice was good, the locker room apparently was really good. And the food was like it's a great place. Like there are taco restaurants on every street. Like you can't go wrong. Cooper Boardman and I had tacos like
Did
four
you
times
ever
in
see
3.5 days.
that Fievel movie from years ago, American Tail?
Never.
They sing a song about America. There's no cats in America, and all the streets are paved with cheese, and that there are mice that are coming to America. You're making it sound like Arizona is that. There's a
It was
taco truck on every corner
five.
and a
It
Bud
was
Light in
great.
your hand. Yeah.
It was a great trip though. I think, before we get to the games, like the setup was very good. All things considered, you had 5 days, the team had 5 days on the road to bond.
Yeah.
And with respect to Las Vegas, you're staying kind of off the strip at like an event and casino place, and it feels very unnatural. And Tempe, like we did that, we hiked up a butte. Um, could say that for the first time. Like it's just a pretty place. There's a pool. It's like 71 degrees in the day and like 50 degrees at night. Like it was quite
Well,
ideal. And
I'm
it
glad.
certainly beat the
I'm,
13 degrees that you had.
I'm
So
glad you and Cooper had a good time. Mullet Arena looked great. You go in and look. This is a Cornell team. I was talking with Jillian Jakuba, who knows more hockey than most people will forget, and she said that Cornell team is maybe one of the better teams you're going to see this year, if not, the best. And you lose 4-2. You go into the third period up, 2-1. It felt like you gave them a run there at least for the first couple of periods, and then kind of fell by the wayside. How did you see that game unfold?
yeah, I mean, so to be honest, it was pretty surprising because I think if you have to look at that game and you have to look at the BU game that ended the first semester kind of in tandem. UMass was 7-0 going into the third period with a lead going into those two games. And BU, you're up, I want to say 2-1 going into the third period then, and you lose that game to BU at home. Then, very similar situation, Cornell, who was, I want to say, like three places behind BU in pairwise, similar situation on the road where you played a really good connected game. Because to play those types of teams, especially, sorry, to play Cornell, who's a very defensive minded uh
They're like gritty, right? Yeah.
not boring. Yeah, the word isn't boring, but they make the game boring because they play things simple. They play a very structured game. You have to break them down. UMass did a really good job of that in the first two periods. In the third period, it was like a totally different team. And so I think after the game, the word that Coach Carvel used was there was a lot of soul searching about how to kind of process it. Because again, through two periods for the second straight game, you play really good hockey and you're on your way to, a big win over a ranked opponent, and then Cornell comes back and it was still close. It was fourth. It was the fourth goal was an empty netter with a couple
Right.
seconds left, but you know it's you get outshot almost 4-1 in that third period with shot attempts, and it was just it was hard to explain. So then you had to bounce back the next day, and they did, which was a welcome sight.
Yeah. So Larry Keenan gets his second goal of the season for UMass. Michael Cameron gets one as well. Those are the two there. As we mentioned, Jackson Irving in goal. He had 53 saves over the course of the weekend. And I'll get us to the carve quote that I had after that game. I'm gonna have to paraphrase because I'm not sure if I have it up here. Hold on, give me a second. He kind of not super thrilled with how that one finished, but says there's still kind of some juice for this team. And as you mentioned, they bounced back the next day. He said, quote, "We're a fragile team that doesn't really know how to win games right now. We're not playing at a standard that I think we're capable of. I still believe in this team, but that was another tough one today. In some of these games, you've lost some real close ones, as you just mentioned, but you got to figure out a way how to kind of like pull some of these games out. And that's a game against a top 15 team.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think we saw how important playing close games was last year because a lot of games that UMass played ended up going to overtime.
Right.
And obviously, you get the pairwise points for winning, but it also mitigates the damage of losing when you get games to overtime. And there's, UMass is playing Northeastern tomorrow, and Northeastern is equal with UMass on pairwise points. And that's because they've taken so many games to overtime. I want to say they've taken five teams to overtime this year. And even though they've only won maybe one of them, they've got six wins in the year, but they've kept games close. And not losing is sometimes just as good as winning. So I do think learning how to close games out is important because again, prior to the last two games, UMass had been 7-0-0 when leading after two.
Yeah.
And they've also had a couple of comebacks in the third period. So it's just kind of putting it all together because, it's closing time, if you will, with Hockey East play really, dominating the rest of the schedule.
Congratulations to Jackson Irving, by the way. He wins goaltender of the week. You come back the next day, 8-0 shutout win. First shutout for Irving, first career win for him. You know, he's had to step in there with Robble out, and I think, put your team in a position to win that tough game in the first day out in Arizona. Then, you go and blank Robert Morris, which, maybe not a great team, but you still, as you said, you got to win those games, and UMass did definitively in the second game.
Yeah, I mean, he gets Hockey East goalie of the week. And great quote from Carve yesterday, which is that on Monday morning when they had the whole team meeting, he said, want to congratulate one of our goalies who's coming home with some hardware from the last week.
Oh, he rope
Jackson
it to
Irving.
he
Yeah,
bait and
Jackson
switched him.
Irving
Oh,
is your Hockey East goalie of the
that's
week,
just
and he said it
mean.
got a lot of laughs. People forget that he's this coaching staff is really funny. Uh, well, but yeah, he was outstanding. In the Cornell game, he was also outstanding. The goals that he gave up, were not goals that he would want back. And he gets his first win and shutout in one on Saturday. And I think in the third period in particular, the team was really playing for that as well. And obviously, you want the team to be motivated all the time, but going into the third period, you're up, I want to say 5-0 going into the third. You want to keep that goose egg on the
Yeah.
board. Robert Morris didn't test him a ton, but he made a couple of really good saves and it's well deserved. He's a guy who, you hope will be a 4-year player who is capable of some big moments and really, really happy for him. He's someone who works really, really hard. And I know his dad, Bruce, who played at Cornell, was probably pretty pleased with how he played in both those games because
Yeah,
33
kind of
saves, like
torn
he
there.
had
Yeah.
a really good game on Friday too.
Yeah, he ended up with 53 saves, 946 save percentage over the course of the weekend. So you get 1 out of 2 out there. I think also Carve mentioned, hey, we're not going to be going west anytime soon. I don't know if you read into anything
What
on his
that was,
comment.
I think that was more of a joke. It's more about the where the multi-team event sort of where they're hosted, right? Because there's three of them out west. There's Vegas, Arizona, and now Coachella Valley as well. Obviously, there's still teams out west that you could visit for a pair of games, or find another like Lake Placid was another one of the or Milwaukee, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
Or I mean Belfast, Northern Ireland, right? Like
that works.
that works too. But I mean, just as far as where UMass has played in the past, like, but yeah, I think it'll be nice to be back home, back local for the remainder of the season. 5 of the next 7 games at home, and the 2 games that aren't at home are in Andover, or North Andover, Massachusetts, and Boston,
Yeah,
Massachusetts. So
which
keeping it
certainly,
local.
and that brings us to this upcoming weekend.
Although, wait, we should talk just
Uh,
briefly about put up 8 goals on Robert Morris, and you get, I want to say 7 or 8 players with multi-point games. Like it's good to get the juices flowing too. Like
yeah,
Cameron scores in back-to-back games, 2 goals for Lautenbach, 2 assists for 5 different players in that game. Like that's an important game as far as getting the confidence going and the secondary scoring going as well. It's not a marquee opponent necessarily, but they took North Dakota to OT earlier this year. Like it's the way UMass played as a response to Friday's game was deserving of a mention.
okay. You feel set. You feel heard.
Oh, I feel set. Yeah, I
Okay.
think
All right.
yeah,
Okay. Absolutely. So Northeastern, which is kind of even with UMass in the pairwise as we speak. 7 o'clock at Northeastern. Tough place to play. You hope you get the UMass fans going, and then back here at home where you haven't been, as you mentioned, outside of an exhibition game at the end of December at 6 o'clock on Saturday. So hopefully we get this barn, rocking and ready to go. Scouting Northeastern. I don't know if you have had a chance to kind of take a look at what they've been able to do this season. Maybe not as good as where they've been in years past, but they've come up with some pretty key wins already this season.
Yeah, really interesting team. So for one, UMass has really had the edge over Northeastern the last 5 years. UMass is 10-1 in the last 11 games, including a stretch of 9 straight wins. There was a senior class that graduated Northeastern having never beat UMass. I think that was 2 years ago. And for whatever reason, UMass has um, had the edge. And last year, a pair of 2-1 wins, an OT winner at home, Kenny Connors, and then on the road, a 2-1 win at Matthews around this time. So it's been a matchup that's been favorable for UMass for whatever reason. And they're coming off their best performance of the year, 5-1 over Quinnipiac last week. But they're below you in Hockey East right now as far as the standings go. And they've got some talented players. They've got the reigning Hockey East Player of the Week in Jack Williams, who had a goal and 3 assists. He's got 9 points his last 5 games. They've got one of the best point scoring defensemen in the league in Vinny Borghese. And they've got talent. They added a ton of transfers, and in Cam Lund, they've got a Hobie contender. So they play a game that UMass is familiar with. They've got plenty of talent. They're really good at faceoffs. They're the third best faceoff team in the country. So details are important.
Mm.
And by the way, their leading faceoff man is Ryan McGuire, who's Pierre McGuire's son, which is going
We'll
to be
be on the
fun on
broadcast with
Saturday
you
to
on
be able to,
Saturday, right?
yeah, which is going to be kind of a
Are
fun
we gonna have to
experience.
flag him for some conflict of interest on
I think
this
it's the opposite. I
broadcast?
think it
He's
enhances.
gonna
I
be
mean,
harder on him.
no, I think because in the NHL, Louis DeBrusk is the color commentator for the Oilers, and when Jake DeBrusk played for the Bruins and he plays for the Canucks now, like they always have a nice little moment. So I think it's like a positive thing more than anything else. But Northeastern, you really want to take 4 points from this week. You want to take six, but a road win and a tie or anything like that, you want to get the edge as far as pairwise goes, and keep climbing. But I'm excited because this is a matchup that has gone a certain way. And you look at the next 7 games, Northeastern times two, Merrimack times three, and Alaska times two. If you want to make a run and you want
Yeah.
to heat up now and get yourself into the teens as far as pairwise goes, the meat of the schedule as far as traditional powerhouses, the teams that are right now in the top 10, that's a February and early March situation. You gotta you gotta sort of lick your lips a little bit and feel good about the
I
possibility of going on a bit of a run here.
I don't know, man. It's hard to, obviously don't want
But
to look
every
at
game is so
where you
hard
are.
not to beat,
I
right?
know, and it's like you got three against Merrimack in a 5 game stretch. I mean, they always play, no matter how good they are, they always play so tough, and it's tough to win at their building. And there's usually 1 goal games. And you mentioned Northeastern last year, you get the wins, but they're close. So should be fun. I think if you're able to hopefully we'll get the fans going here. Get this place moving, get that home field, that home court, home ice advantage. 6 o'clock on Saturday.
6 o'clock. Hopefully, some of the juju from last night can stick around on
UMass
the weekend.
basketball with a win over Dayton,
Big win.
riding high.
Shout out
That's
my
it.
guy Marquis Worthy, by the way. What a great game for him. He practices so hard. He's like I feel like coaches love him. He
Yeah,
practices so hard.
he's a
Really
good
happy
dude.
for the team
Yeah,
after last
have
night.
him, Jingay, the whole crew. But that's for another podcast on the Just Being Frank side. But
It's a crossover episode, but they didn't know.
all right, any final thoughts, words of wisdom, things that you observed in your trip out to Arizona? By the way, next year I'm going to have to I'm going to shuffle the deck on some of these schedules. I might have to pick up a trip somewhere warm for our hockey multi-team tournaments.
I'm not sure that they're getting a war multi-team tournament, unfortunately. But it would have been. Although I seem to remember, Jay, you spending a week in Hawaii.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
Um,
I'll never forget that. Yeah, that was last year.
um,
I told Frank, I said we were in where, Unkinsville, Connecticut this year at Mohegan Sun. I said, Frank, last year we were in Honolulu, Hawaii. We've kind of taken a step backwards.
Mohegan Sun is famously the Oahu of the
It
Northeast
is
coast. So,
absolutely. Yeah,
um,
Mohegan is the Oahu, and then Foxwoods is like the Maui, right?
yeah. But no, I mean, great trip, super cool. Great seeing all the UMass fans out there. There is a pregame meetup on Friday tomorrow that's hosted by the Pond Club. You can check out the UMass
There's
hockey
a
and the Pond
meetup
Club social
and a
media.
watch party back in Western Mass too. So don't get those two things confused. If you're in Boston, pregame meetup. If you're in Western Mass, watch party.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully seeing a lot of folks out there. Matthews has always been a place like Conti Forum where fans show up for UMass. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
And
All right.
I'm thinking about getting that vest. So
I know. Oh, by the way, this is a new office. I understand there's not a lot of garbage that you see people in podcasts put behind them. I will eventually get to that point. So please don't comment.
you want a game worn UMass basketball jersey from like 2017?
Yeah, bring it in.
I'll-
I'll hang it
Yeah,
up. All right.
perfect.
Okay. All right. That's been our episode, first one of 2025 for the NewMass Minute. Look out next week. Hopefully, we'll have some interview cuts from Yenchko and Hrabel. We'll get back into the guest swing of things as we get back on a regular schedule with the holidays and the guys being off and then being on the road. It's just you just get me and Nate for the moment. So hopefully, we'll get back to that next week. Nate, thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Good luck this
See you
weekend.
next time.